What's up, guys? Alright, so in this video I'm going to be upgrading my stock brakes, and I know what a lot of you are thinking. Why put money into the shitty stock brake setup? Well, the answer is the stock brakes aren't really that bad at all. They're actually pretty good for what they are. I mean, a lot of the guys complaining have 8-10-year-old brake fluid on the car and 20-25-year-old brake pads, old school brake pads, warped rotors. When I mean warped, I mean grooved rotors, so you're not getting full contact surface with the pad. Worn master cylinder, some of them could be leaking. The one in my car now is leaking. I'll show you it here in a minute, but it's leaking between the booster and the master cylinder itself, and it's pretty common on these cars. I don't think it's actually degrading the braking performance, but I'm going to be replacing that with a BM57 master cylinder, which is on the 33 and 34 GTR with the Brembo brake setup. And the reason I'm not going with the BM50, which is a factory master cylinder, is I do want a firmer pedal feel, which is what the BM57 master cylinder is going to give you. It's not going to provide any more stopping distance with the BM57 master over the BM50, but that's the way I want. I want to firm the pedal up. Plus, it's going to set me up in the future if I decide to upgrade to a big brake kit, Brembo kit, etc. Another reason I'm putting money into these stock brakes is even to just go to a Brembo setup from a 33 or a 34 GTR is going to run you at least $1,200. And that's in most cases not even including the brake pads, which is going to run you another $200-300 for all four corners. And if you research, you're not going to find much difference in stopping distance between the 32 GTR setup and the 33 GTR Brembo brake setup. We're only talking a few feet going from 60 to 0. For your average street GTR, the stock brake setup is going to be perfect. And when I say the stock brake setup, and a gone through brake setup, change out your brake hoses to steel braided, change out your brake fluid, upgrade the pads, change your rotors. That's what I mean. When you do all that, this is going to be far better than what any other 32 GTR is coming from overseas. I can promise you that. If you're looking to go constant, 120 mile an hour to 0 mile an hour stops, then this setup isn't going to be for you. But even in that case, the actual Brembo setup that came on these cars that you could get from the 33 or 34 wouldn't be adequate either. So, like I said, but for an average street R32 GTR, the stock brake setup's fine. I've already upgraded the pads on all four corners to Intima SS pads. It's this company right here. I already did all four corners a few months ago, so I'm still rolling on stock rotors on all four corners. This car only has just under 60,000 miles on it, so I'm going to be changing these out. New rotors cost me about $300, and the pads I'm in for about $200. So I got $500 into the stock brake setup, and then, well, I take that back. 'Cause I forgot about the hoses. The hoses were $130, and then the master cylinders cost $200 to get that master cylinder. So I got quite a bit of money in the stock brake setup, but like I said, I'm not dropping $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 on a Brembo brake setup that's I really don't need for the street, and this is going to be fine. So I'll be changing those out, and then the rotors I went with are EBC. It's a well-known company, quality rotors. Just the fronts were about $170 and the rear were about $130. The rear, you can actually use the 300ZX twin turbo rotors from 1990 to 95, and that's what these are. So you still have the opening here for the emergency brake setup, the shoes to rest in there, and then I went ahead and painted these because they didn't have any coating on them. The ones from EBC already have a special coating on them that'll obviously burn off where the brake pad hits, but all this area won't rust. While I'm doing the brakes, I'm going to go ahead and paint the calipers because they look like crap. This is the kit I went with. This comes highly recommended, and it has a paint hardener in it, a special little bottle that you pour into the paint. It's like a two-step. It's heat resistant to 980, and this was like 45 bucks on eBay, so I'll be doing that too. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the leak that I'm having between the master cylinder and booster.
This isn't the best of lighting, but you can kind of see the corrosion from the brake fluid right below the master cylinder there on the booster itself. My plan is to actually, when I remove the master, I'm going to sand all that down and hit it with some paint just to make it look better. But that's the issue I'm having with the master cylinder right now, so that's why I'm replacing it. These are the brake pads I was telling you guys about. These are what I replaced last year, but there's a bunch of shims and shit on here, so make sure you don't lose those. You can just replace the pads with the without removing the caliper. They just slide in and out. You might actually have to pry them right here. Just get a screwdriver on the backside and pull them out. But I actually, like, you can push the pad in just a little bit because you want to recess those pistons, the brake pistons, just in just a little bit before you go pulling them out. But I gotta remove the caliper anyways because I have to change out the rotor. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do now. So I forgot to mention on why I did not go with cross-drilled or slotted rotors as a replacement. Cross-drilled rotors are kind of old school. They used to think that it provided really good cooling. It really doesn't. If you're looking for cooling, you need to get some other brake ducting in there to route it right onto the rotors. But some of these holes, this just goes to show you that they don't provide cooling as good as they thought, because see how they're all clogged up with brake dust? So they're not actually doing anything. You're obviously not getting airflow through there. Another reason I didn't go with them is you actually have more metal, more surface area for the brake to touch on a blank rotor than you do a slotted or a cross-drilled rotor. Think about all these holes on both sides, on all four corners of the car. That's a lot of metal that is missing from the rotor that the pad is not touching. So that's another reason I just decided to go with blank rotors. Slotted rotors are better than cross-drilled rotors, but they're going to eat your pad a little bit quicker than a blank rotor would. I do have to say I like Nissan's idea on how the cooling fins come all the way down to the center part of this hub right here. You don't have that on the EVCs. It's not too big of a concern, but I do like the idea that they did that. The stock rotor thickness is 32 millimeter, and this one came in at 31.3, so they're still within spec, but they are kind of grooved. I don't know if you guys can see in the camera. I can feel it with my finger. They're grooved right here. So if I slam on the brakes, I get a slight pull to the right. The right side does not have grooving. So the pad on this side of the rotor, because the other side doesn't have it, is not adhering or not touching, however much percent of this fucking rotor because it's grooved. So yeah, that's why I decided not to go with slotted or cross-drilled rotors. The Brembos, if anyone was curious, so these are 297 millimeter diameter. The Brembos are 324 millimeter. So you get a little bit, maybe another, a half inch in diameter or something like that. I mean, if I had them side by side, there's an obvious difference. So you have more metal. I'm gonna go ahead and put these on, and then I'm gonna get the rears on. In order to get these rotors off, it's real easy, but you have to remove two bolts that are 12 millimeter that are holding the brake line, and there's two 19 millimeter bolts on the back side, and once you take those out, you just move the caliper and the rotor falls right off. Alright, here they are. The new rotors are on, and here's the old one again. Another reason I didn't go with cross-drill, if I failed to mention, is cross-drilling is highly prone to cracking between the holes under high heat, so repeated basically track use or multiple freaking high speed stops. But I looked at these; they don't have any cracks on them. Like I said, I don't think this car was ever used for track anyways. But other than the holes being clogged, these are off the car now. They're rusted because I washed the car a couple days ago. When I got the car, they had some cheap ass replacement pads. I still have them in the box that I showed you guys earlier that the new pads came in. Because when I got the car, I thought the brakes were shit. They were garbage, but the fluid was black. I replaced the fluid with .4. Just the off-the-shelf shit that you can get at AutoZone is fine. .4 has to meet .4 requirements. It'll be fine for street use. So I did that. The pads and steel-braided hoses all the way around, and that made a massive difference. I'm expecting all these new rotors all the way around to help it improve even more. Like I said, I don't think that master cylinder is going to decrease my stopping distance, but it should firm up that pedal, which is what I want. Alright, so here's a quick comparison of the BM50, which is the stock 32 GTR Master, and the BM57 Master that I got. Not really any noticeable difference. So it'll push just a little bit more fluid. Like if I push the pedal down X amount of distance in this one, it would just push a little bit more fluid if the same distance of pedal is pressed. You guys see what I'm saying? The reservoirs are different. For the this is I think it's a 34 Master, so it's got a different plug on the reservoir, but it's fine. All you gotta do is pop this old one off, and your old one will snap right into place on the new one. Just clean it out. I went ahead and threw degreaser in there and cleaned it all out. I was kind of gunked up in there. And here's the end result. So this paint actually has a hardener in it, and it hardens way better than the there's a company, I forget the actual name, but you know, the spray stuff. It's been out for years. I've used it, it's great, but I prefer this stuff. It's almost like an epoxy paint. It's able to withstand brake fluid and all that. I don't think the other stuff was able to withstand brake fluid for too long, so I'm happy with it. So yeah, let's go out and drive and see if this made a difference. Oh, here's the you guys aren't gonna be able to see that. Anyways, the BM57 Master's in, and it's all bled. Don't forget to bleed the ABS unit. Once you bleed all four wheels, start at the furthest. So you want to start at the left rear, right rear, the right front, and then the left front. Even though the Master's here, remember it's feeding off the ABS unit. Anyways, let's go take it for a drive. Alright, I hope you guys can see me because I have my camera my GoPro's kind of angled way down. I've already put about 30 miles on the car, done maybe about 30 stops. Half of those have been kind of moderate. The other half have just been kind of light applications in the beginning, just to try to bed the pads to the new rotors. I still don't think they're fully bed in, but first impressions right off the bat, the pedal feel is a lot firmer. It's kind of how it should feel. The bite, the engagement point is maybe ½ inch, 3/4 inch, whereas the other Master, with the stock Master cylinder, it felt almost double. So on the last setup, on heavy brake applications with the other rotors, with the stock rotors, still the same pads, still the brake lines, still the same brake fluid. Keep in mind, the only thing I've changed this go around are the rotors, and I changed the Master to a BM57, and I can lock my brakes up now, which I think is pretty cool. So I'll go to 70, so 70 and 0. Oh, I'm kind of lightheaded doing that. Definitely better than the other setup I had on here. So the big question is it worth dumping money into your stock brakes? I'm gonna leave that up to you guys. Comment below, tell me what you think. Like I said, if you want to go to a big brake setup, you better get ready to fork out $3-4 grand. I mean, I just don't think they're worth it. I've been in an R33 with factory Brembos, and it stops just as good as what I just did back there from 70 mile an hour. So, like I said, I think it's worth it. I got about $400 or $500 into them total. I'm not going to count the brake lines because brake lines were 150. Everyone should do those anyways. Is the BM57 Master needed? Probably not. But definitely get yourself some good brake pads if you plan on upgrading the stock brakes. Get rid of the shitty slotted rotors. Get yourself some blank ones, or at a minimum get slotted. Don't get cross drilled. And let me know what you think. Put your money somewhere else. Alright guys, until next time, thanks for watching. I'll see you later.